She came back glowing from the trip, but the moment she hugged me, I knew she wasn't mine anymore. My name is Caleb Madsen, and for most of my life, I thought I understood the meaning of stability. Routine. Marriage. Family. Turns out I was just the last one to realize the joke was on me. I'm 42 now. I own a modest auto repair shop in Maple Hollow, Michigan. Population just over 3,000. One blinking yellow light in the center of town, one grocery store that still writes checks, and folks who still wave when you pass by on the road. The kind of place where secrets tend to rot in silence until someone finally decides to dig them up. I built that shop with my own hands after high school. Welded the beams myself, laid the floor, even designed the logo on the old green sign that hangs above the bay doors. For 2 decades, I kept engines running and families safe on the road. People trust me around here. Maybe that's what made the truth so hard to swallow when it finally came. I married Leah when I was 27. She was 22, fresh out of community college with a degree in early childhood education and a smile that made every room feel like spring. We met at a 4th of July barbecue. She spilled lemonade on her blouse and laughed like it didn't matter. That laugh, it haunted me in the best way. We've got one kid. Sophie, 11. Bright-eyed and curious, always asking questions about how engines work or why the sky turns pink before sunset. She takes after her mom's gentleness, but there's a grit in her too, something I always hoped came from me. Life wasn't perfect, but it was ours. And then came the trip. It started out innocent. Leah's mom, Janice, was turning 60, and they wanted to do a mother-daughter getaway. Some coastal healing, she called it. Just 4 nights at a spa resort in Savannah, Georgia. Massages, facials, overpriced mimosas by the ocean. Leah told me she'd already booked everything with points Janice had saved. It sounded like something they deserved. I trusted her. Of course I did. But even then, something in her eyes. I don't know. Like she was already far away. She packed her suitcase slowly, folding things like they were fragile memories instead of clothes. She kept double-checking her phone, reading messages and swiping them away just a little too fast. I told myself I was being paranoid. Tired, maybe. Before she left, she hugged Sophie tight, held her face like she was memorizing it. Then she kissed me, soft, but brief. Like a polite goodbye at a dinner party, not a wife leaving her husband and child for almost a week. That was the last moment I could pretend everything was okay. The first night she was gone, Sophie crawled into bed with me. Said the house felt weird without Mom. She wasn't wrong. The silence after she left wasn't peaceful. It was dense. Like something thick and sour had settled into the air. I cleaned the house twice. Changed all the oil at the shop, even stayed late detailing customer cars. I couldn't sit still. Leah texted here and there. Short messages. Spa day was amazing. Mom snoring so loud lol. Gonna turn in early. No photos. No FaceTime. No call to say goodnight to her daughter. It was unlike her. By the second night, Sophie started asking why Mom didn't want to talk. Is the Wi-Fi bad in Georgia? I didn't know what to say. I lied and said probably, yeah. On the third night, I noticed she hadn't posted anything to social media. Not one photo. Leah lives for Instagram. She once posted 3 separate stories of a cheese board. But nothing now. Not even a beach sunset. I told myself she was just unplugging. Taking the time she needed. But in the pit of my stomach, something cold started to coil. When they returned, it was a Sunday afternoon. I heard her car pull up and stepped onto the porch to greet them. Sophie burst past me to hug her mom, and for a second, everything felt like it might be okay. But then Leah hugged me, and I felt it. You know that moment in winter, when you touch something that looks warm but your skin pulls back from the ice underneath? That's what it felt like. She looked rested. Tanned. Almost glowing. She had on a new necklace I'd never seen before, a delicate gold chain with a small crescent moon. Where'd that come from? I asked casually. She touched it quickly, almost protectively. Oh, just something Mom got me from a little shop in town. But her mother flinched at the lie. I saw it. Janice looked at the ground, then smiled too fast. That shop had all kinds of cute trinkets, she said, not meeting my eyes. A small moment. Tiny. Insignificant on its own. But in that instant, I knew something wasn't right. Leah unpacked quickly, too quickly. She threw her dirty laundry straight into the wash without sorting. I found that odd, she always separated colors and whites obsessively. Later that night, I noticed her suitcase had a zippered compartment she usually never used. It was locked with a tiny clip. I didn't open it. Not yet. I still wanted to believe. The next morning, as we ate breakfast, Leah stirred her coffee without drinking it. Sophie was telling her about a school project, some kind of diorama, and Leah just wasn't there. Mom, Sophie said finally, are you still on vacation in your brain? Leah smiled weakly. No, honey. I'm here. But she wasn't. Not really. And that's when she said it. Oh, Mom and I are going to the clinic later. Just a routine thing. You know, post-travel stuff. I blinked. What kind of clinic? Just general checkups. Women's stuff. Nothing big. Want me to drive you? I offered. She laughed, but it sounded thin. No, no. It's just boring blood work. We'll be in and out. Janice, sipping tea across the table, said nothing. And that's when the silence started to speak louder than words ever could. She said it was just routine blood work. But routines don't come with fear in your eyes. I spent that Monday trying to convince myself I was overthinking things. That maybe I was tired. Jaded. That maybe a man like me, who's spent most of his life under cars and around brake fluid, just didn't know how to read women right. But my gut had never lied to me. At the shop, I kept looking at the time. I knew their appointment was around 10. By noon, I hadn't heard anything. No update. No, all done, text. No playful emoji Leah used to send even for the most mundane things. At 12:45, I called her. No answer. I called again. Straight to voicemail. I tried Janice. She picked up after 3 rings. Hey, Janice. Everything okay at the clinic? There was a pause, just a beat too long. Oh, yes, of course. Just waiting for the doctor to wrap up a few things. You know how these places are. Her voice was calm, but something in the background sounded off. A quick, whispered voice. A door closing. You two still there? Still here, she said quickly. Just about to leave. We'll call you later, all right? She hung up before I could say another word. By 2 p.m., I was standing in my office, staring at the appointment calendar, wondering what kind of women's clinic doesn't have a waiting room big enough for a husband to sit in. And that's when my phone buzzed. It was Frank, my neighbor 2 doors down. Hey, man, he said. Didn't know Leah was back already. Saw her this morning at the gas station off Route 11. That didn't make sense. That's odd, I said, playing it cool. She was supposed to be at the clinic all morning. Frank laughed lightly. Well, maybe she stopped on the way. Just thought I'd mention it. She wasn't alone though. I froze. What do you mean? She was with some guy. Tall, maybe early 40s. Not Janice. Didn't look like family. They seemed close. He paid for her coffee. Did you recognize him? Nah, never seen him around. Out-of-towner, probably. They left in her mom's car. I thanked him. Hung up. And stood there, heart pounding like a slow, distant drum. When Leah came home that evening, she smelled like eucalyptus and mint. Spa scent. Not clinical. She didn't say much. Just kissed Sophie on the forehead and went straight to the bathroom. I heard the shower start. Then silence. Janice stayed downstairs, helping Sophie with math homework like nothing happened. I sat across from them, trying to focus. Watching Janice's every move. She was cool. Too cool. So, the appointment went well? I asked casually. Janice looked up, smiled. Oh, yes. Routine stuff. Boring even. You know, Frank said he saw Leah at the gas station with someone this morning. There it was. Her pencil slipped. Just a fraction. She caught it midair like she meant to drop it. Oh. Maybe she stopped for coffee while I was getting checked. We didn't stay together the whole time. She didn't mention that. Janice shrugged. Nothing to mention, really. I nodded slowly. Said nothing. But inside, the rope was starting to fray. That night, Leah came to bed late. She climbed in carefully, like someone sneaking into a room that no longer felt theirs. I pretended to sleep. Watched her silhouette in the dark as she turned her back to me. I could hear her breathing, steady, but shallow. Did everything go okay today? I asked, quietly. She jumped slightly. Then recovered. Yeah. Totally fine. Just tired. I rolled over and placed my hand gently on her side. She tensed, not a lot, but enough for me to feel it. You sure? She nodded in the dark. But the lie clung to the air like humidity before a storm. The next morning, I drove Sophie to school early. On the way back, I made a detour. Parkview Women's Wellness Center. The place Leah said they went. The parking lot was nearly empty. I went inside, made small talk with the receptionist. Told her my wife and mother-in-law had an appointment the day before and I'd left something behind in the waiting room. She asked for names. I gave them. She typed slowly. I'm sorry, she said, frowning. We don't have any record of Leah or Janice Madsen being here yesterday. Are you sure? She turned the screen so I could see. The entire appointment log. Nothing. Not a trace. I might be at the wrong clinic, I mumbled, backing away. But my knees felt weak. My mouth was dry. The clinic had been a lie. Every word of it. That night, I sat in the garage. The place that always felt like mine. Tools, grease, sawdust, old country music playing softly in the background. I opened a beer. Then another. And just stared at the ceiling. My wife hadn't just lied about an appointment. She'd lied about the trip. The clinic. The man. And maybe, she was lying about everything else too. That zipper compartment in her suitcase suddenly felt like a locked door to a different life. I knew I needed to open it. I just didn't know if I was ready to see what was inside. Her suitcase held more than clothes. It held the first proof my life wasn't real. The next evening, after Leah and Sophie had gone to sleep, I sat at the kitchen table staring at her suitcase. It was propped against the wall near the laundry room, the little zipper compartment still locked with a flimsy clip. My heart thumped as I stood. My hands shook, but not from fear. From certainty. I fetched a small flathead screwdriver from my toolbox and knelt by the suitcase. The clip snapped open without resistance. Inside was a soft leather pouch, the kind jewelers use. And beneath it, a folded receipt from the Hyatt Grand Savannah, dated the same weekend Leah was supposed to be at the spa with Janice. I opened the pouch first. A man's gold cufflink, engraved with the initials M.R. Then the receipt. It wasn't for 2 guests. It was for a king's suite, Mr. and Mrs. Robert Madsen. My blood went cold. She hadn't even used her real name. Beneath the receipt, tucked into a side slot, was a boarding pass stub. Flight 473, Savannah to Atlanta. A date that didn't match her return ticket. Every piece felt like a puzzle I didn't want to solve but couldn't stop assembling. I placed everything back carefully, exactly as I'd found it, and closed the suitcase. Then I sat on the floor in the dark, listening to the soft hum of our refrigerator, feeling the weight of a world shifting under me. The next morning, Leah acted as if nothing had changed. She kissed Sophie's forehead, poured coffee, and scrolled her phone. But I could see it now. The distance. The small smile she wasn't showing me. The way she glanced at her screen and tilted it away when I walked by. I drove Sophie to school, then dialed Janice. No answer. I called again. Straight to voicemail. I left a message that said only, "We need to talk." No reply. Back at the shop, my friend Eddie dropped by. He'd been a state trooper before retiring to run a bait and tackle shop near the lake. The kind of guy who could smell trouble before it walked into a room. He noticed my expression before he even sat down. "You're holding something in," he said. "What's going on?" I hesitated, then told him everything, the clinic, the receipt, the cufflink. I showed him the photo I'd snapped of the receipt on my phone. He whistled low. "That's not a spa weekend, Caleb." "No kidding," I muttered. "You want my advice," he said. "You need proof. Something you can't be talked out of later." I knew he was right. How? Start small. Phone records. Credit card statements. If she's lying, paper always shows it. And Caleb, he paused. Don't confront her until you're ready to hear the worst. That night, I waited until Leah was in the shower and checked the family laptop. She'd never been careful about browser history before. But now there were no traces at all. Everything wiped. Except one thing. A cached email subject line. Hyatt Grand Savannah, confirmation. It was from a Robert Madsen. Madsen. My last name. Someone using my last name. I clicked it, but the body had been deleted. I sat back, the glow of the screen turning my hands pale. She wasn't just cheating. She was hiding in plain sight. Using my name to build some shadow version of our life with a stranger. The next morning, I dropped Sophie at school early and drove toward the only place I thought Janice might be, her house on Birchwood Lane. Her car was there. Curtains drawn. I knocked. No answer. I knocked harder. Finally, the door cracked open. Janice's eyes peeked out, red and tired. "Caleb, it's early," she said. "I know," I said evenly. "We need to talk." She hesitated. Then opened the door wider. Her kitchen smelled of stale coffee. There were 2 mugs in the sink. She didn't invite me to sit. "You weren't at the clinic," I said flatly. Her mouth twitched. "What are you talking about?" "Don't," I said. "I have the receipt. The cufflink. The boarding pass. I know you were somewhere else." Her shoulders sagged. She pressed a hand to her forehead. "It's complicated," she whispered. "No," I said. "It's simple. Either you tell me now, or I'll find out myself." She looked at me then, really looked, like she'd been waiting for this moment. "You don't understand what you're asking," she said softly. "Try me." She opened her mouth. Closed it. Then whispered, "I can't. Not yet." And that's when I knew, whatever was happening wasn't just an affair. It was something darker. When I got back in my truck, my phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. Stop digging. It won't end well for you. No name. No signature. Just a warning. I stared at the screen, the words burning into me. Whoever M.R. was, he knew I'd started looking. And he was afraid. But not half as afraid as he was going to be. The message said, "Stop digging." That's when I knew I'd finally struck a nerve. I stared at the screen for a long time. Stop digging. It won't end well for you. My hands didn't tremble. Not this time. The fear had already calcified into something colder. Sharper. This wasn't just infidelity. It was a cover-up. One careful enough to warrant threats. I saved the number. Backed up the text. Took a screenshot and emailed it to myself under a folder I titled simply, Insurance. I wasn't going to stop. I didn't go to the shop that day. I told Eddie to handle things and drove to the Hyatt Grand Savannah's website. I pretended to be Robert Madsen, who had lost access to his confirmation email and requested a copy of the reservation receipt. An hour later, a polite front desk employee named Carla emailed me back with the invoice, confirming the suite, 4 nights, king bed, spa access, and most importantly, 2 guests, Robert Madsen and Leah Madsen. I stared at the screen like it was a photograph of a crime scene. She hadn't even used her maiden name. She'd worn mine for a man who wasn't me. That afternoon, I drove past Janice's house again. Her car was gone. Probably working damage control. I didn't stop. Instead, I went to the library downtown. Logged into one of their public computers. Searched Robert Madsen, plus Savannah, plus business, plus public records. Nothing. Tried M.R. with luxury cufflink brands. Found nothing definitive. I was chasing smoke. But then I remembered the email subject line, read, Hyatt Grand Savannah, confirmation. That, meant it was a reply. Which meant she had the original message stored somewhere. I went home. Waited until evening. Then I made my move. Leah was in the bath. Sophie was asleep. I slipped into the office and opened her laptop. No browser history, no saved emails. But I knew her. She never deleted the trash bin. I opened it. There it was. A thread of half-deleted emails between her and an address named Raymond at Outlook.com. I opened the most recent one. Same room again. You spoil me. I can't wait to see you. The necklace was perfect. I haven't taken it off. My heart stuttered. My mouth went dry. I clicked another. Use the name Robert Madsen. It's cleaner that way. No one checks ID anymore. And finally, the first one. Send me your flight info. I'll be waiting by the carousel. Gray blazer. Same cologne you like. That was it. M.R. equals Marcus Raymond. The man who borrowed my name. My wife. My life. I took screenshots of every message. Sent them to the same insurance folder in my cloud. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened Facebook. Searched Marcus Raymond. Too many results. I narrowed it down. Location, Georgia. Age range. Education. Cross-referenced with her flight details. Eventually, I found him. Marcus Raymond. 44, divorced. Works in real estate. Lives in Atlanta. His profile photo showed him standing beside a silver Audi, wearing a gray blazer. Gray blazer. I clicked through his photos. Saw one from February. A night view from the Hyatt Grand's rooftop bar. Caption: What happens in Savannah? I felt the heat rise behind my eyes. I wasn't looking at a stranger anymore. I was looking at the man who stole my wife and wore my name while doing it. The next morning, I confronted Janice. She was in her garden, pruning roses like they hadn't helped ruin a family. Why him? I asked. She didn't look up. You found him. I found everything. She clipped a thorny stem and finally turned to me. I didn't know it would go this far, she said softly. You lied to my face. I was protecting Leah. From what? Accountability. Janice exhaled, slow and heavy. It wasn't supposed to last. Just a fantasy. Then it got serious. And messy. I stepped closer. Do you understand what you've done to our daughter? She looked away. She still needs her mother, I said. And if Leah thinks she can vanish into someone else's bed and keep pretending we're a family. She's pregnant. The words landed like a body hitting the ground. I froze. What? Janice's voice broke. She found out after Savannah. She didn't know what to do. Is it his? I don't know, she whispered. She hasn't said. I took a step back, like the air had changed density. She's keeping it? I asked. A pause. Yes. I didn't speak. Didn't shout. Didn't cry. I just turned. Got in my truck. Drove 2 towns over. To Marcus Raymond's office. It was listed as a sleek, glass-fronted real estate firm on Broad Street in Atlanta. I parked. Watched the building for 20 minutes. Then I walked in. The receptionist smiled. Hi there, do you have an appointment? No, I said. But I think Marcus would want to see me. Tell him it's Caleb Madsen. Her smile faded. Let me check if he's in, she said, typing quickly. A few moments later, she nodded. He's just wrapping up a meeting. You can wait inside his office. She led me down a hallway lined with motivational quotes and fake plants. Then opened a glass door. Inside sat Marcus Raymond. He stood when he saw me. But he didn't smile. Just froze. Like a man watching his past walk through the door holding a mirror. He wore my name like a costume. I came to see if he was man enough to wear the consequences too. The door closed softly behind me. Marcus Raymond stood across the room, one hand still resting on the edge of his desk, like he needed the furniture to anchor himself. His eyes flicked toward the door, then back to me. No greeting. No denial. Just silence. I stepped forward. You must be used to walking into rooms that aren't yours, I said. He didn't blink. I guess you found out. Found out? I repeated. You think this is about discovery? You walked into my life. Slept with my wife. Used my name at a hotel. And now you're standing there like we're 2 old friends catching up over coffee. He held up a hand. Listen. No, I said. You listen. I closed the distance between us in 2 strides. Stopped just short of his face. Did you think I wouldn't notice? That I'd never ask questions? That I'd go on fixing brake lines and packing school lunches while you played house with my wife in a king suite 2 states away? He exhaled slowly. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. It never is, I snapped. He finally looked down. For the first time, I saw something close to guilt in his expression. But it wasn't enough. Not nearly. How long? I asked. He hesitated. How long? A little over a year. I stared at him. A year? He nodded. She said things were dead between you 2. That you'd stopped being a husband long before she stopped being a wife. I smiled, bitter, empty. She told me you were comfortable, he continued. Predictable. That you didn't see her anymore. And I'm guessing you saw her real clearly, didn't you? He looked away. I shook my head. You know the worst part? I said. You weren't some stranger from a bar. You inserted yourself into her life so deeply that she used my last name to hide you. You became me, at least the version she wanted. That wasn't my idea, he said quickly. She thought it'd be safer. Safer, I repeated. From what? The truth? He didn't answer. She's pregnant, I said. His eyes widened just a fraction. She didn't tell you, huh? No. Well, I said. Maybe congratulations are in order. He took a breath, sat slowly in the chair behind his desk, hands laced together like a priest awaiting confession. I didn't plan for this, he muttered. No one ever does, I said. But you chose it. You made every single decision to get here. And now that I'm standing in front of you, you don't know what to say. I never wanted to hurt anyone. Then you should have kept your pants zipped. Silence stretched. Thick. Suffocating. I turned toward the door. Wait, Marcus said. I stopped. What now? He stood again. You're not going to tell my wife, are you? That hit me like a slap. Your wife. He froze. I stepped back toward him, slower this time. You're married. His lips parted, then closed. Defeated. I was. We're separated. But not divorced. He said nothing. I laughed, short and humorless. So while you were borrowing my name and screwing my wife, you were still wearing your wedding ring in another house? She doesn't know, he said quietly. Oh, she will. Please don't. Why? I said. You afraid of losing your second fantasy? No, he said, voice trembling now. I'm afraid of losing my daughter. I paused. You have a kid? He nodded. She's 9. Her name's Ella. I closed my eyes for a moment. 2 lives. 2 families. Shattered by one man who couldn't choose. You don't get to play victim now, I said. But she deserves the truth. Just like Sophie does. He looked like he wanted to speak. To beg. But I was already walking out. That evening, Leah was in the kitchen when I got home. Making lasagna, like it was any other Thursday. Hey, she said, too lightly. How was your day? I dropped my keys on the counter. Watched her move. The ease of her. The normalcy. Like she hadn't rewritten our marriage in invisible ink. I saw him, I said. She stopped mid-stir. Her hand froze on the wooden spoon. Marcus, I added. She turned, face pale. Lips parted. You went to Atlanta. I didn't answer. Just held her gaze. Her eyes welled. Caleb. You wore my name for him. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I didn't know how to stop it, she whispered. You didn't want to. I was lonely. You stopped seeing me. You stopped touching me. I nodded. And that made it okay? I asked. No, she said. Nothing about it was okay. I stepped closer. You lied to me. To Sophie. To your own mother. You built another life while dragging ours through the mud. And now, you're carrying his child. She gasped. Covered her mouth. How did you? Janice told me. She sank into a chair. I don't know if it's his, she choked. I haven't told him. I haven't told anyone. I'm not anyone, Leah, I said. I'm the man who should have known first. She sobbed. And I just stood there, staring at the woman I used to love, wondering if I'd ever be able to look at her again without seeing someone else's fingerprints. That night, I slept in the guest room. Not out of spite. Out of survival. Because forgiveness has a shape, and this one didn't fit anymore. She kept cooking dinner like nothing happened. I kept pretending I could ever eat it again. The guest room smelled like cardboard and forgotten linens. I laid on the old twin bed, staring at the ceiling, watching the fan spin like a slow, broken clock. Every blade seemed to count down a version of the life I'd lost, the years, the laughs, the moments I thought were real. But they weren't. Not all of them, at least. That's the thing about betrayal, it doesn't just replace the present. It rewrites the past. It taints the memory of every good thing with the poison of hindsight. The next morning, Leah tried to act normal. She placed pancakes on a plate for Sophie. Smiled as if nothing had changed. But I saw the way her hands trembled when she poured syrup. I saw how she avoided my eyes. I didn't speak. Sophie looked back and forth between us. "Why didn't you sleep in your bed?" she asked me. Leah froze. I forced a smile. Just needed some space. "Are you guys mad at each other?" "No," Leah said too quickly. "Not at all, sweetie. Just, grown-up stuff." But Sophie wasn't stupid. Kids never are. She pushed her plate away. "It doesn't feel like just grown-up stuff." Then she grabbed her backpack and left the kitchen. Silence followed her like a shadow. Later that day, I sat at the edge of my workbench in the garage, watching dust swirl in shafts of sunlight. The whole world outside was moving on, and I was stuck, like a man who'd stepped into wet cement without realizing it. Eddie came by around noon, holding 2 coffees. "You look like you haven't slept in a month," he said, handing me one. I didn't answer. "I take it you saw him?" "Yep." He took a sip. "You hit him?" "No." "Shame." "I thought about it," I muttered. Eddie nodded slowly. "She confessed." I nodded. He leaned back on the tool chest. "You going to stay?" I looked at him. "I mean," he added, "Sophie's still young. Maybe you try counseling. I'm not saying forgive and forget. Just, do what's best for the kid." I shook my head. "What's best for Sophie," I said quietly, "is not teaching her that love means swallowing poison and smiling through it." Eddie didn't argue. That night, Leah knocked on the guest room door. Quiet. Hesitant. I didn't answer. She came in anyway. Stood near the doorway, arms crossed. "Have you thought about what you want to do?" she asked. I stared at the window. "I want to rewind time. Kayla. I want to be back at the kitchen table, watching Sophie glue googly eyes to a shoebox, believing we're still a family." Her voice cracked. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen. But you let it." "I was drowning," she whispered. "You didn't see me." "I didn't know I needed to," I snapped. "I thought we were okay. I thought our silence was comfort, not decay." She took a step closer. "I still love you." I turned my head, finally looked her in the eyes. "No," I said. "You loved the version of me who didn't know better. The one who still brought you flowers without realizing you were already full of someone else's perfume." She didn't say anything after that. Just left. And closed the door slowly behind her. The following weekend, Janice came to visit. She brought cookies and fake smiles. Pretended nothing had changed. I couldn't even look at her. She was part of it. An accomplice in silence. Maybe worse. Sophie noticed my coldness. After dinner, she pulled me aside. "Dad," she whispered. "Did Grandma do something bad?" I knelt in front of her. "Sweetheart, sometimes grown-ups make choices they think are helping. But they hurt people instead." She looked down. Is that why Mom cries in the bathroom now? My chest tightened. Yeah, I said gently. That's part of it. Are you going to leave? I paused. Her eyes begged for a lie. I don't know yet. That night, I dreamt I was in the hotel room. Not ours, theirs. I saw the sheets, the necklace, the coffee cups on the balcony. And her laugh, not with me. I woke up sweating. Walked to the kitchen. Poured whiskey into a mug. As I stared out the window, Leah entered behind me. Can we talk? She asked softly. I didn't turn around. She stepped closer. I'll tell Sophie. When you're ready. I nodded. But neither of us knew what that meant. In the morning, I found a printed paper on the kitchen table. It was a paternity testing service form. Signed at the bottom in Leah's handwriting. She hadn't said anything. Just left it there, quiet, like an apology. I stood there holding it, staring at the empty coffee pot, wondering how many versions of myself had to die before I could be reborn into someone stronger. I thought the worst had already happened. Then I opened the envelope. 3 days passed before the results arrived. Leah had arranged everything quietly, appointment, swab, mailing. I didn't ask questions. I didn't go with her. I just waited. Silent. Distant. Like a man pacing outside a locked door with fire on the other side. On Thursday morning, an unmarked envelope arrived. She left it on the kitchen table beside a cup of untouched tea. When I came in, the room was empty. I sat. Stared at it. Hands flat on the wood. The air around me seemed still, like even time was holding its breath. Then I opened it. Probability of paternity, 0%. I read it twice. Then a third time. My vision blurred, not with tears, but with a kind of numbness that spread through my limbs like Novocaine. My fingers let the page fall, and it fluttered like it didn't weigh a thing. Like it hadn't just ended a version of reality. The child was his. Not mine. The future I'd tried to imagine, therapy, healing, maybe someday sitting at Sophie's graduation with Leah beside me, evaporated. This wasn't a wound that could scar over. This was a severance. She entered the room quietly. Still in her robe. Eyes red from sleeplessness. You read it? She asked. I nodded. She didn't cry. Didn't plead. Just sat across from me. It doesn't change who I am as a mother, she whispered. No, I said. But it changes who I am as a husband. She winced. I'm going to tell Sophie, I added. Please, let me be there. I considered. Then shook my head. I'll handle it. She said nothing more. That was the first moment I saw something in her break. That evening, I asked Sophie to sit with me on the porch. The sky was orange, and the crickets were just starting to hum. Our old dog, Bandit, lay at her feet, and the rocking chairs creaked slowly in the breeze. I need to tell you something important, I began. She looked up, wide-eyed, already sensing the gravity. Your mom and I, we've been going through something difficult. And it's not your fault. Her lips trembled. Are you getting divorced? I hesitated. Probably. She looked away, blinking fast. But you're still my dad, she asked. I reached for her hand. Always. Later that night, I heard Leah crying in the bathroom again. But I didn't go to her. She'd chosen a path I couldn't follow. And even though part of me still remembered the warmth of her, the woman I built a life with, I couldn't forget the man who had taken my place. A week later, she moved out. Janice came to help her pack. She avoided eye contact, hovered in doorways, tried to thank me for understanding. I didn't answer. I just carried boxes down the steps like a pallbearer at our marriage's funeral. Leah kissed Sophie goodbye. Promised weekend visits. Playdates. Normalcy. I watched from the window as her car pulled away, her rearview mirror reflecting the woman I no longer recognized. The quiet after she left was different than the quiet before. Before, it was suspicion. Now, it was peace. Painful peace, but peace all the same. I started cooking again. Badly. Sophie didn't complain. We took evening walks. Talked about school. Dogs. The moon. One night she asked, "Do you think people can stop loving each other?" I paused. Then said, "I think people can forget how to show it. And sometimes, that's worse." She nodded. Like she understood. Maybe she did. One rainy Saturday, I took her to a bookstore in the next town. She ran to the graphic novels section. I wandered. And that's when I saw him. Marcus. Standing near the biographies, flipping through a hardcover. He didn't see me at first. But I stepped into his line of sight. His eyes locked on mine. He froze. I didn't move. Just stared. He slowly put the book back. Approached. "Caleb," he said softly. I raised a hand. "Don't." He stopped mid-step. "I'm not here for you," I said. "I'm here with my daughter. You're not part of that world." He nodded. "I didn't expect to see you. You never expect the people you ruined to show up again, do you?" He looked away. "I heard she moved out," he said. I laughed under my breath. "You two planning a nursery now?" "No," he said. She stopped calling. Smart woman. Shame it came 2 years too late. He swallowed hard. "I just wanted you to know. I'm sorry." I looked at him, this man who thought words could fix things long after they were shattered. "Keep your apologies," I said. "You might need them when your daughter asks where you were all those nights." And I walked away. Back to Sophie. Back to what mattered. That night, I found one of Leah's old earrings under the couch. Tiny, silver. Probably forgotten. I held it in my palm for a moment. Then dropped it into the trash. She left our home, but the silence she left behind stayed longer than her shadow. Autumn came early that year. The trees on Maple Hollow's back roads turned gold before October, and the air shifted, crisp, thin, the kind that carries voices a little farther and makes you hear your own thoughts too clearly. Leah had been gone for a month. Sophie and I settled into something like routine. Mornings were quiet but not sad. Evenings were warm in their own way. We made bad pasta. Watched old movies. I let her paint her room a wild shade of turquoise. She laughed again. Sometimes I caught her watching me, cautious, like she was checking if I was still holding it together. And I was. Not because it didn't hurt. But because the hurt had somewhere to go now. It had shape. And a name. And an ending. One Sunday, we sat on the porch. A soft breeze. Orange leaves skimming across the gravel. She was reading, I was just rocking in silence. "Do you miss her?" Sophie asked. I didn't answer right away. "I miss the version of her that never lied," I said finally. "But I don't think that person ever really existed." She nodded slowly. "I miss how we used to feel like a team." "We're still a team," I said. "Just a different formation now." That made her smile. "You're still the goalie." "Always." A few days later, a letter arrived. Handwritten. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. It was from Leah. She didn't beg. She didn't ask for anything. Just wrote that she'd moved into a small apartment near her work. That she was going to therapy. That she hoped someday I could forgive her, not for her sake, but so Sophie wouldn't grow up thinking love only breaks. She signed it. Leah. Not your wife. But still Sophie's mother. I read it once. Then folded it. And placed it in the drawer beside our wedding photo, the one I hadn't had the strength to throw away yet. Not out of love. But because it reminded me what blind trust looked like. And what never to return to. Weeks passed. Marcus never reached out again. Leah, as promised, kept her distance. We shared Sophie like passing a flame between candles, careful not to let the light go out. One evening, after I dropped Sophie off at Leah's place, I drove to the edge of Lake Ansel. The water was still. Moonlight spilled across it like silver glass. I took off my shoes. Let my feet sink into the cold mud at the shore. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was drowning. I felt clean. There's something no one tells you about betrayal. It doesn't end with a scream. Or a slammed door. Or an affair revealed. It ends with quiet. With learning to make breakfast for one again. With teaching your daughter how to fix a leaky faucet. With hearing your own breath in the middle of the night and realizing you're still here. Still standing. Still you. A few months later, I met someone. It started slow, a coffee at the farmer's market. A shared laugh. A second glance. Her name was Claire, and her voice didn't sound like apology or regret. It sounded like wind through pine trees. Sophie liked her. And for the first time, I stopped checking every shadow for someone else's footsteps. I stopped expecting pain at every corner. Because not all silence is emptiness. Some silence is healing.